Hey guys, and welcome to today's tutorial on another one of my favorite page styles. Okay, so let's just start with the tutorial for today. And the first step we always need to do for any of those page styles is to cut and score our cardstock as well as our pattern papers. And for the measurements, you can refer to the cutting guides and templates which are available in my Etsy store for different album sizes. And when I cut my cardstock and pattern paper, I always like to label all the elements I have cut. So this is just an example on how to use your cutting guides for cutting and scoring your cardstock and pattern papers. And then after scoring, you can go ahead and do the next step. So the next step for this page style is to attach tape right next to the scoring lines. So we have already scored our cardstock and now we can take our 3/8 of an inch tape, so at least that's what I like to use, and you just want to make sure that you place it on this little flap we have created with scoring, and you just place it right next to the scoring lines without actually covering the scoring lines. And after attaching our tape, we want to cut off the corners of the little flaps we created with scoring. So for this, I like to turn around my cardstock and then I get my small scissors and I just cut at an angle right next to the scoring lines. And just make sure that you don't accidentally cut into the scoring lines, but just next to them. And then we also want to fold up those little flaps we have created with scoring. And for cardstock element C, you actually want to fold them on the front side. So you don't turn around your cardstock like we would usually do and like you would also do for cardstock element A, but you just fold it on the side where you scored it so that your tape is actually on the inside and not on the outside of the flap. And then we can continue by covering our basic page with the pattern paper for the basic page. And for this, I like using wet glue instead of tape because then I'm still able to move around my pattern paper and find the right position so that I'm having an even border around my pattern paper. And then you can attach cardstock element E onto cardstock element B, and for this I like to just remove half of the tape backing, and then I hold up the sticky side and I use the non-sticky side to align my cardstock to the edge of cardstock element B, and once I found the correct position I go ahead and stick it down. After attaching cardstock element A and B to each other, we can go ahead and also attach our cardstock element C. And for attaching, I actually just place my cardstock element C in the correct position first. So I fold it over cardstock element A on the side where I want it to be attached, and then I hold it in place, turn around my construction, and then I go ahead and remove the tape backing, and I make sure that I'm not covering the scoring line of cardstock element C, but cardstock element A should be laying right next to the scoring line. And then I go ahead and just fold over the little flap on cardstock element C to stick it down. The next step would be to cover our cardstock element C with the coordinating pattern paper C, but as you can see here, I like my corners to be round, so I first got my corner round puncher and then I wound the corners of the cardstock as well as of the pattern paper, and then I can go ahead and just attach my pattern papers by using wet glue to the cardstock elements. And then we can also attach our pattern paper A onto our cardstock element A, so on the front side. And again, for this I like using my red glue instead of tape so that I can still move around my pattern paper. Now that the pattern papers are attached, we can go ahead and place our eyelets, and for this I like to use my Tim Holtz ruler so that I can find the correct position to place my eyelets onto, and I actually want them to be in the middle of cardstock element C. So I just use my ruler here, and the Tim Holtz ruler is actually perfect to finding the middle, and then I mark it down. And now you can get your eyelet setting tool or your hole puncher first. I'm using the big bite here. Make sure that it's in the correct settings, and then you can go ahead and punch the holes first. And when I use an elastic for closure, I actually prefer one of the eyelets to be a very tiny one, and this would be the eyelet on which I place the elastic, and then I want the other eyelet to be a white eyelet, so this would be the eyelet to actually wrap around my elastic later on. And using those two sizes actually means that you want to punch a smaller and a wider hole, and then you can go ahead and use your eyelet setting tool to set both those eyelets in place. But for the small eyelet you can go ahead and set it in place completely, but then for the white eyelet you need to be careful because you don't want to set it all the way down, but you actually just want to press your eyelet setting tool slightly so that there's still room for the elastic to be wrapped around. So just make sure that your white eyelet is attached very loosely, and then you can go ahead and cut your elastic. So as you can see, I just wrap it around the white eyelet, and then I go ahead and cut off a piece of elastic. And then leave your elastic folded in the middle and pull through the folded side so that those ends are hanging from the inside of cardstock element C. Then you can continue by tying a knot of those ends of the elastic before you want to make sure that it's the right length so that it's actually perfectly closing when wrapping around the white eyelet. And then once I've tied my knot, I like to just cut off the ends a little bit, just give it a little trim. And then I like using pieces of tape underneath the elastic. And then I also get another piece of tape to actually cover the elastic and make sure that those ends really stick in place. You don't want them to rip off, so I really go ahead and place a large piece of tape to cover them up as well. And then you can go ahead and attach your pattern papers onto the cardstock. So as you can see, I again use my red glue and I just place my pattern papers on the inside of those cardstock elements C. And I also like to cover up the back side of the white eyelet, so even though there is no elastic I need to set in place, I want those sharp back sides of those eyelets always be covered. And also by using a piece of tape here, you make sure that the white eyelet is no longer hanging loosely, but it's actually set in place so that your elastic can perfectly wrap around the eyelet. So now we only need to attach our construction onto our basic page, and for this I like to use tape instead of red glue here because it's a very heavy interactive piece, and also with the elastic you really want this to lay flat, so I prefer using tape on here. And I actually place my tape just around the edges, and then I also place one piece in the middle. I go ahead and burnish it down so that it sticks really well, and then I just remove the whole tape backing and make sure that I place it in the correct position. So I like this, of course, to be placed right in the middle of my basic page. And with that you have finished the favorite page style number 37. And I really love this page style, and I know that I'm saying this about all those page styles because they're all my favorites. But what I like about this page style is first that you are able to include more than just one photo on this page, and then I really like that it's so interactive and that it has an elastic closure. This is actually the first page style I'm introducing to you with using an elastic closure, and yeah, I just love it. So yeah, I really hope that you enjoyed today's tutorial. And if you did so, I would love to get your feedback in the comment box down below. And of course, it would also mean a lot to me if you could give this video a like, a thumbs up, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. So I hope that you are having a great day, and I would love to see you in my next video.